Hello, everyone. I'm BritSimon. I'm going to talk to you about the lawsuit that I'd like to start with regard to the UK entrance into DV2025 and DV2026. So, if you're from the UK, if you are chargeable to the UK, and you entered the DV lottery in 2025 or 2026, I'd like you to spend just a few minutes listening to what I've got to say. All right. Let me just start by introducing myself. Perhaps some of you might not know me. I run a YouTube channel. I run a blog. I'm known on Twitter, you name it. For the last 13 years or so, I've been helping people through the DV lottery process. I help people with questions about how to process once they've won. Hopefully, I help people avoid making mistakes to mean that they're more likely to win. And I've been doing this for 13 years as a hobby because in 2014, I myself was a derivative of my wife's case. My wife, having been born in Spain, she was eligible to participate in the lottery, the Greencard Lottery. And so we came to America in 2014 on a visa, H1 visa. And that same year, we were able to transition over to green card status. I'm now living in California, and I'm a US citizen, dual citizen actually, of the UK and USA. So that's me. I'm not a lawyer. I don't charge people any money for anything I do. My interest in the DV lottery space is purely, to help people through the process and try and give people a fair crack at the whip. So that's kind of brought me to what I'd like to talk to you about. In DV 2025, the UK became eligible again due to a dip in the overall number of immigrants from the UK over a 5-year rolling period. That's what made Great Britain, the UK, re-eligible for the Green Card Lottery. That same thing continued in DV 2026. They were eligible. And it will continue, I've calculated, at least in DV 2027 and probably beyond that, DV 2028 as well. The immigration from the UK dipped after about 2019, partly due to COVID and partly, I guess, for other reasons. There was a dip in the immigration patterns from the UK, and that has meant that the UK is now eligible again to participate in the diversity lottery. The lottery is supposedly free to enter currently, although our present administration is trying to change that. Bless them. And so it's supposed to represent an opportunity for people that can't find another way to get into the USA, to be able to have a chance to come here, bring some diversity, bring some cultural difference, and so on. As I mentioned, I myself have benefited from that, and I know many, many people who've done so. And as diversity lottery winners and derivatives, we bring a lot to this country, and I think you would probably agree with that. So some of you will have entered DV25 and DV26 expecting that your entry would be treated in the same way as anybody else. The lottery draw process is random. It shouldn't matter where you're from. It shouldn't matter what work you do, how old you are, or anything else, right? It's supposed to be, the law says, it's an entirely random process of selection. But that does mean that given enough entries from a particular country, if those entries are being treated fairly, there should be some winners. And until now, I've not been able to find a single winner from DV 2025 or DV 26 that is chargeable to the UK. Not a single winner. And it's been discussed on Reddit and so on. There's a thread on Reddit about this. And I have published a couple of videos to talk about this, and also talked about this on my blog. And I'm aware of, through my videos and blogs, well over 100 people who say they entered one or the other years, and through another source, which I'm not really at liberty to disclose, but Through another source, I know of around about 250 more entries. So I know of at least 300 or so entries. That should mean there should have been some winners over DV25, DV26, just from that small population of people that I know of, right? Now, if I know of that population, I think the actual number of entries is far higher. And if you look at comparable countries in Europe, such as Germany, Spain, France, Italy, and so on, you'll find that typically they get at least a couple of hundred winners. In DV25, I think the number for Germany is about nearly 500 winners or selectees, which is selected entries and the family members. That's what that number means, around about 500 of those from Germany. Germany is a similar sized country to the UK, so how is it conceivably possible that the first four countries in Europe with about the same sort of population as the UK have hundreds of winners and the UK has no winners? Remember, the terms of the draw, as laid out in the law of the USA, says that everybody within the region should have the same identical chance of selection. There should not be any any sort of preference for this country or that country within the draw process. Something's gone wrong. I know it has, and I just now need to prove it. Which brings me to what I'd like to do. I'd like to start a lawsuit. The point of the lawsuit would not be to award a bunch of green cards to people that that entered. It would really be to discover if this mistake was made, which I believe it was, and if it was made, to return the chance to normal for those entries. And that doesn't mean better than normal. That means normal. That means giving those entries the same chance they should have had in DV25 or DV26 in terms of being selected. And if we can move fast on this, if we can prove that quickly, then I think there is time to actually return the rights of people in DV25 and 2026. Certainly 26, there's time. But if we move fast, there's probably time in DV25 as well, or I certainly hope so. But we have to be able to move quickly on this, okay? So I have some ideas on the remedies that would be available to us as part of a lawsuit, and none of those remedies need to affect anybody else in Europe or anybody else that's been selected in DV25 or DV26. There are ways of fixing this problem. I'm quite certain there are ways of fixing this problem for the UK entries without affecting anybody else. I'm not trying to affect anybody else. In fact, I'm adamant that we won't affect anybody else. And I've cleared that with the lawyer that has agreed to take the case. So that brings me to that lawyer. The lawyer that has agreed to take this on is a gentleman called Curtis Morrison. He's based in Southern California and has sued the government successfully in DV lottery cases previously. He has had a number of cases which have been group lawsuits, large numbers of people, sometimes as many as 25,000, I think, on one of his lawsuits, of DV lottery candidates that were not being treated well by the US government. And so he has been successful already. He knows how to argue these cases, and he is fully aware of how diversity visa lottery works and so on. That's a big benefit for us, to be able to make faster progress with him. So he's agreed to take the case. And of course, he can't take the case for $0. He's obviously had to put a number out there, which is $6,000. Which would be the fee that he would need to start this lawsuit. It might end up costing a bit more than that. I'm open to that possibility, and I'm open to the possibility of covering some of that money myself, but I don't want to cover all of that money myself. And so I'm hoping that I can crowdfund this by some sort of GoFundMe page or something along those lines, from a bunch of people from the UK who are prepared to help out with, I think, around about $60. So if we got $60 from 100 people, then that would be $6,000. That would pay for the lawsuit, and it would avoid me, sort of digging in my pocket for the principal. Although I'm happy to do that if I need to. Okay, so so that's what I'd like to do. Now, what I've done is I've created a form that you can fill out. The form is going to ask some questions. First of all, obviously your name and your email address, so that I could then communicate with you about this lawsuit. Secondly, it's going to ask, were you a DV 2025 entry? And if you were a DV entry, can you give us the details of your entry, which is pretty much useless information to you at the moment. The details would be your last name, which obviously you can provide, your year of birth, and the confirmation number that you received in that original entry. Some of you, I'm hoping, will still have that for DV25 and obviously for DV26. And so I'm going to ask you that question in that form about whether you were an entry in DV25 or DV26, or perhaps both, right? That would be one of the questions. And then the third question I want to ask is, would you be prepared to financially support this lawsuit by some donation or contribution? And I'm trying to gauge the level of contribution that you feel would be fair. I think about $60, $60, which is about £50, or the price of a dinner in the UK, I guess, at the moment, right? For the price of a dinner in the UK, you're contributing towards a lawsuit that will re-establish the rights of people like you that entered the lottery. I cannot guarantee you that your entry is going to be a selected entry. Can't guarantee you that. And so it's it's for the greater good, I guess, of the community as a whole, and to make sure that Great Britain, the UK, is properly treated in this process. Remember, we're not just talking about DV25 and 26. We're also talking about DV27 and beyond, because if the government doesn't either understand or doesn't care, or whatever is the case, that they haven't included the UK, then they'll just continue that behavior. They don't know to turn the switch on, because as far as some of them will be concerned, they will, I believe, be genuinely surprised that UK entries were not included in the draw process. And so, that's the problem I'm trying to reveal and also fix. Okay. So will you join me in this adventure? I've explained who I am. I've explained my motivation, I hope. And I hope you will see that this is the right thing to do, to argue for the principle, for the greater good, for the community of people that have entered the lottery in good faith. And now I actually have one advantage in this whole thing, in that to start a lawsuit in the USA, you need something called standing. You need somebody who has been injured by by this action that you're saying has happened. And my own daughter entered DV 2025, and so she has been injured and therefore has standing. She has the right to sue. Now, I may need somebody, at least one person, and maybe more. I've yet to discuss this with Curtis, but we may need multiple names of people that are prepared to be named plaintiffs on this lawsuit. My daughter has already agreed to be named, and we may need some more. So actually, that's something I should add to the form, and I will do that. I'll add a question on there of the form before I launch the video. So let me know if you're prepared to support in providing the information, providing some donation, and also whether you're interested in being a named plaintiff. First question my daughter asked was, is that going to come back at her in any way? And I simply explained to her this. Number one, we've had lawsuits before for diversity visa lottery, and there have been no negative actions taken about to anybody who's participated in that. In fact, there are laws against that. that protect people in a lawsuit from negative action from the government. Things like, could they reject your ESTA application or something like that in the future because of this? Number one, to be honest, the government isn't all run in one big room. They're not that switched on about, who's doing this, who's taking them to court, and who's and who's applying for an ESTA. They're just not that organized, right? That's the first thing. But secondly, there is this legal protection that people have. And thirdly, I would say that in my observations of the lawsuits on diversity visa lottery that have happened before, there has been good cooperation from the government and the government lawyers. They don't mind at all when you're pointing out that they've done something wrong. And I actually believe that the government probably don't know they've screwed up. I don't think this is something malicious on their part at all. I don't think this is something about, that little disagreement we had 250 years ago. I don't think it's about that. I think it's just a screw up. Honestly, that's what I think it is. It's an administrative screw up. And as part of the discovery process, they have to give us the information that we want. We'll win that aspect, the knowing, almost immediately, as soon as we start the lawsuit, because part of the discovery will reveal the information that, frankly, we're all interested in knowing. Were people fairly treated in the lottery or not? And so then during the process of the lawsuit, it should be pretty easy to get towards discussing remedies. The whole thing, I think, could move quite quickly. They're not going to be in an argumentative position once they understand that they have unintentionally wronged people. So I don't think there's going to be any negative consequences at all. And I hope you'll understand that. But yeah, I'll ask the question, in the form to see whether you're interested in being a named plaintiff. We may be able to create a class out of this in order to move the lawsuit ahead. But actually, I don't even think we need a class personally. I don't know. We'll have to let the legal expert Curtis weigh in on that and decide how he wants to run the lawsuit. But the remedy is something that will automatically benefit people, whether they've been involved in the lawsuit or not. It's just going to cover everyone. It's going to restore their rights by rerunning that draw process. I actually think there's a good chance that we won't even have to rerun the process. That the people that entered the lottery have already been selected, but then hidden from the list of winners. That's a normal part of the process that goes on every year for different reasons. And I think that's what's happened. I think that those entries already were allocated winning numbers and then were mistakenly hidden from the winning number list. And in that case, it's simply a matter of revealing their numbers and their position within the rank order and making sure that they can get to get interviewed if they're interested in doing that. Okay, so that's it. That's going to be the lawsuit. I'm hoping you'll respond to this pretty quickly. We need to move fast. And the faster we move, the more likely it is that we can do something for DV25. DV25 will stop interviews on September 30th of 2025. So we've got some time, but lawsuits tend to be slow. And so we need to move quickly to make sure we've got some time so that some people can be lined up for interviews in perhaps August and September of this year. And then DV26 winners will have more time to get themselves in order and get sorted out. So that's what I want to do. Are you with me or not? That's what I'd like to ask. So please check out the link of the form below the video and let me know how you're feeling about it. Okay? Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye now.